Thank you. Yeah. Microphone. All right, good morning. We will convene this regular Board of County Commissioner meeting. Today is Tuesday, April 23rd. We're meeting in wonderful Cripple Creek at the Centennial Building. And thank you all for being here. We'll begin with an invocation from Mr. Williams and a pledge from, our pledge of allegiance from JT, our OEM manager.
Bow your heads. Dear Heavenly Father, thank you for another opportunity to lead and to serve the great citizens of Teller County. We pray for those in harm's way that they be returned safely to our country when their missions are done. And we pray for the end of division in our country. We're much better together than we are apart. In His name, amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. We have accounts. Sorry, we have minutes from the previous meetings. I think we have one on our packets from the last meeting of April 9th. I did not have any noted corrections or typos, so.
No, I didn't either, Mr. Chair, and I also noticed they fixed the vice chair.
Yep.
And did it last time.
So entertain a motion to approve.
Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion that we approve the minutes of the proceedings of the Board of County Commissioners, Teller County, Colorado, dated April 9th, 2024, as written.
Second?
Assuming no other discussion, roll call, please.
Mr. Stone?
Yes.
Mr. Williams?
Yes.
Mr. Campbell?
Thank you. And next up, we have our accounts payable run. I don't think I have any notes of highlighted items, so be up to you guys.
I didn't either. Eric, do you have any comments?
No, I reviewed and I don't have any questions.
Make a motion on that.
Yeah. And Mr. Chairman, I would move to approve the accounts payable dated April 18th, 2024 in the amount of $639,499.37 as presented.
Second?
All right, assuming no other discussion, roll call, please.
Mr. Stone?
Yes.
Mr.
Yes.
Mr. Campbell?
Yes. All right, next up on the agenda, we have the board with Mr. Stone.
Yeah, thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Yeah. I think about 14 days left in the legislative session, and I feel like a fifth grader at the end of school year looking at the calendar and the clock, just counting the days down. Just like when I was 10, the clock and the days and the calendar, they very slowly. There's still a significant number of bills that we don't think would enhance or improve the lives of Teller County citizens, and in fact, it did the opposite. We're working hard on those. I don't want to go into budget details. I've talked a lot about them before. There is one new one though that we're working on that I know that the sheriff is also aware of. It's House Bill 24-1460, and essentially, this is a bill that would make law enforcement judge and jury against other law enforcement, and if they fail to be judge and jury, they have committed a crime. Now, if that sounds quizzical and odd to you, you would be correct, because what it does is it says that despite the fact that we have policies in place for how to report misconduct or possible illegal acts by law enforcement, this bill says that law enforcement must open an investigation on any complaint filed against law enforcement, and any law enforcement officer that was, as they stated, aware of any misbehavior on the part of another law enforcement officer and did not report it themselves has just committed a crime and will be charged with a misdemeanor. And that's a look back. It's, that they can then look back and say, well, you had to have known, or you saw this. Well, couldn't you conclude that, didn't that give you probable cause, to then file a complaint, and they can just, in my opinion, arbitrarily file a lawsuit no lawsuit, actually, it's a criminal complaint against a law enforcement officer for failing to see something. It's in its entirety a horrible bill, because it is not uncommon, frankly, for there to be frivolous complaints filed. And what this says is that if any complaint is filed, that there must be an investigation. Even if it's somebody that's previously filed 15 complaints and all of them were found to be baseless and not worthy of opening an investigation, now they must open an investigation, and failure to do so would be a crime. So actually, the sheriff, I believe, is up today. That got introduced about 11 o'clock on Saturday night, and it's already in committee. Sheriff's up there today testifying against it in committee, because it's already gone to committee. We're hoping the clock runs out on that one before it makes it all the way through, but that's the kind of ridiculousness that we're working against. That being said, there's a lot of great things going on in the county. This weekend, I attended, I think the other commissioners may have attended as well, the Senior Coalition Expo, which was held over at Woodland Park Community Church. Lots of organizations came out. You talk about what they have to offer, and it was just tremendous. There were all great presentations also. I know Commissioner Williams talked to open the proceedings, and then Steve Flute had a really amazing presentation on the history of Woodland Park and his recollections as a child growing up in Woodland Park, and what a lucky individual he was to grow up in Woodland Park and seeing what it was like, I'm sure back in the 1980s when he was a little kid. But just kind of looking at all these areas that previously were just pastures full of turkeys, not wild ones. There was a turkey farm where the high school used to stand, but it was really cool. Also, I believe the previous weekend, since from our last meeting, also there was community partnership held their Summerfest, and a lot of different groups came out for Summerfest, showing what all they had to offer, and everything from Boy Scouts to the sheriff's posse, and there were
Camps.
what's that?
The camps.
Yeah, all the camps came out, all resources, and I was trying to get to the little miniature horse that was there, that Monique Eckert had brought over. It's a little, it's not a companion animal, I'm trying to think of the word for it, therapy horse, but it's about 2.5 feet tall, 3 feet tall, really cute animal. But anyway, that was a really great event as well, great weather for that. And of course, also here in the springtime, a lot of people are out, raking needles, doing a lot of mitigation work, which we appreciate. This is, great time of year to do that and to clear space around your home, make sure it's defensible. So a lot of great things going on in the county. There's some board things that were going on that I went to with PPACG and others, including the transit meeting for Cripple Creek and Tiller Senior Coalition, but I won't give you details on those other than just to say that I was there. Really just wanted to celebrate spring, celebrate a lot of good things going on in the county, and some hope that we can get to the end of the legislative session. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Commissioner Stone. Commissioner Williams.
Yeah, thanks, Mr. Chair. Yeah, I just echo a few things Eric said and a few additional things, but it is springtime and it feels good to be towards the end of the legislative season. I'll talk about a few things there. As far as the Senior Coalition, the weather was really bad, and so we were really happy to see folks get there. I was talking to Crystal, her daughter was helping. It's just really wonderful. Here's what I reminded those folks. Colorado's got 5.8 million people. So let's just say roughly almost 6 million, 2 million, or a third of Colorado's residents are above the age of 50, 1 million are above the age of 65. They were a powerful voting bloc, and wasn't a political comment. I don't care if they were either side of the aisle. But what you need to know is Colorado's senior programs are divided into 16 regions, and all of those regions this year have received funding cuts. It has to do with what's going on in Denver and trying to find money. And I wanted those people to know not to let that happen. Because it's one thing that Republicans have in common with Democrats and unaffiliated, we're all getting older. And it's really important that we not let that happen. And so we're starting to see some of those cracks and grants and things like that. Also, hats off to Public Health and DHS from Teller County. They were there with booths. It was really neat. Eric and Bob and that we looked at them. They were basically focused on preparedness with the last storm that we had, because so many people had stories to tell me as we walked around about, you should have seen where I was during the storm. So it was really cool to see that. A lot of materials, but again, I think In Teller County, you know, the senior coalition is well supported, all three commissioners. I think I've told you before, the average person that moves to Teller County is 50 and has two pre-existing medical conditions. A lot of them don't know how to use a chainsaw. They're new to the rural lifestyle. I ran into a bunch of people in my travels in Denver last week that asked me about Teller County, and it's a jewel. I think Pat put that in the paper when Jason Meisel said that we're a jewel in the crown of the state, and it's true. So there's a lot of focus on senior programs by your county commissioners. So, but again, hats off to Kathy who did that. Had a chance to go to the Sportsman's Caucus and Sportsman's Day, and so that was probably, I mean, Eric and Bob will appreciate this, probably the only bipartisan thing we've done all year in the Capitol. And you have Dylan Roberts, he's a Democratic senator from Summit County, who happens to have a lot of the wolves in his backyard, and it's pretty exercised and switched on in terms of what's going on with DNR and CPW. And Perry Will, who's a Republican and a former game warden senator. And those two guys chair what's called the Sportsman's Caucus. It's very well attended from both sides, along with people like me on the Wildlife Council. Sole purpose is really to remind the metro area and the Front Range of all the opportunities that we have up here, you know, from hiking to hunting and fishing and those kinds of things. Sportsman's Day was pretty interesting. We made enough food for about 500 people. So people from both sides of the aisle, to include staffers and young people, ate buffalo and elk, and there's a lot of gimmies and giveaway and speeches. And I was telling Eric this morning before we started the meeting, what's really interesting, if you don't think there's an urban-rural divide, even if it's not ugly, and sometimes it gets ugly, and that's some of the legislation work on. Just this guy comes up to me, he's 28 years old. He's a staffer. I won't tell you who he works for, but a nice guy. And he said, so tell me how this outdoor stuff works, you know, hunting and fishing. And so I said, well, you know, there's angling opportunities and free licenses, and here's all these brochures. And he looks at me and he says, wow. He says, you know, I moved here 3 years ago. I landed from Chicago into the Denver airport. I've done everything there is to do in Denver. I've never left the city. And then he says, do you think Bustang, you know, which is their bus lines, goes to Rocky Mountain National Park? And it's not a criticism, but I thought, man, this is a guy who's almost 30 years old who hasn't enjoyed any of the Colorado that Eric, Bob, and I are trying to protect. And so things like those educations, again, bipartisan, really, really are important. Because if they don't get hunting and fishing and recreation, they're not going to get water rights. They're not going to get all the rest of the stuff that we're trying to work on. Last thing on Sportsman's Caucus, we continue to watch the potential mountain lion bill being put on the ballot. Right now, there's not enough signatures. I reminded two people that are involved in this up there that I hope they put those signatures to the same scrutiny they do when you run for office. So we'll see. And what that is most sportsmen do not want to see any wildlife managed on a ballot. We want DNR to do it with the North American model, which you've done very well. You know, all three of your commissioners have been working the feudal water rights issue, which is springs and small streams that don't go anywhere, but they feed our cattle up here all over rural Colorado. We're making great progress, and I hope to have one more meeting this week on it, but I did sit down with the Deputy Director, Tim Mock, to talk about it. And that was the issue that a few weeks ago, or I guess a month ago now, where they just, with a stroke of a pen, said, you guys can't have it anymore. And I was telling Bob this morning, driving to pick my wife up in Denver, if you haven't been up there lately, there's just, every time I go up there, there's more and more cracker box housing up and down. It's unlimited, unfettered growth right now. There's still a million short. And so before we give up our feudal water rights, you know, I think we'll have them pull them from our dead hands, like we used to say on another issue. In terms of bills, the three big ones, we're all going to be up there Thursday for the final shaping session for CCI. As Eric said, and he's right, I talked to a couple of legislators, a bunch of them actually, that were at the Sportsman's Caucus. So when they're sitting there eating bison, they're telling you what they really think about stuff. There's about 100 bills that probably aren't going to go anywhere, which is interesting. And just for sake of argument, the federal government this year has been a dysfunctional Congress. We've had 69 bills passed at the federal level. Only they do about 500. We've got over 600 bills that they've been looking at the state capitol. So I don't know why we figured we need these many bills, but ones I've been focused on, of course, have land use, nexus, clean energy. The clean energy bill right now has been pretty much, we all believe in it, right? But there's a combination. There's no mandates in the new one. ADUs, we got cut out of anything above 40,000. So Teller County's got less than 30,000 people. That's what Eric likes to say. We cut the ugly off the bill, so we get ourselves removed from bad bills by saying that, well, that only applies to metro areas, right? And they agree, and then we get signed. And the final, the gun bills, look, I mean, they're very controversial in Denver. And I had people at a Sportsman's Caucus, right? There wasn't a single gun that we could see unless they were concealed, but you could feel the vibe that the hunting and fishing was right in between the two. The first of the 12 gun bills, I guess, goes to the governor today, and that's on the concealed carry. We'll see what he signs. Most of them will be challenged. We'll just kind of see, but it is national news. Maine just did something very similar, and Colorado's making national news on its gun bill. So we continue to fight what we can. And with that, Mr. Chair, I turn it over to you, sir.
Thank you, Commissioner Williams. I'll just continue on the same themes between public events and legislative issues. Had a great time at the 4-H event the other day. A couple of us were there. We got to ask to be judged some smoking and barbecuing event, and it was tied to the kids that were raising animals that had been doing their way in and having learning sessions at the sheriff's office and other places about meat and raising livestock. So I was honored to help the 4-H group out, and it was a fundraiser for them.
That was rough duty, wasn't it, Bob?
Yeah.
To be judges for the smoked meats contest, that was rough.
I think we ate 11 or 12 different types of meats, and the kids were real studious and very controlled and told us what the rules were and follow the rules and do this and do that. So it was very entertaining, but good for these kids. And they had to learn how to put a public event on, and it was run really well. We got to talk to lots of people, and I think they had a reasonably good turnout for a Saturday afternoon event. So it was real good. Been working with CPO board, obviously with the Summerfest, and there was 197 people that came, and I think Jody Morhars talked about it when she was here a couple of weeks ago, combining the two Summerfest events and the summer program events that were handed to them by a couple of other agencies that are no longer put on events, but they combined it to one. And I think they had 40 different vendors in all 3 floors of that building, and got to see lots of people, and a couple hundred people got to figure out maybe some things to do this summer and getting their kids involved in activities and keeping them busy, and some nonprofits, etc. So that was real good. Had a great successful Krabby Tax night with Kiwanis, and we served a couple hundred people, so that was wonderful. Been working with Pikes Peak Workforce as usual on a never-ending 6-month process that has turned into a little bit of a tar and feathering job, but we're going to address that and hopefully get 1 of their 2 audits done, which never seem to end. And these are supposed to be like 30-day events, and it's now going on 6 months. So been spending some time on that. And along with legislative proposals that have been out there, I've been tracking 17 bills, and now there happen to be 18 bills in the tax and finance area. The good thing is 4 of them have been killed. A couple of them with minor impact have already been sent to the governor and signed. But the one I want to highlight is one that Senator Marshall, Representative Marshall is putting forward. He's putting a property tax bill question to the public because it will be a constitutional amendment in November. And this has been introduced, but not revised or amended or passed or anything. But he wants to put a Tabor plus 2% growth on any property tax values. Doesn't have to do with most of our budget because we only survive on about 30% of our tax revenue comes from property taxes. But it's a fairly simple, straightforward bill at this point. And we've been rumored that there's quite a few other bullet points that may be added or may be added to a Senator Hansen bill relating to property tax issues. But at this point, HCR 241006 has been introduced, and we'll be taking a position on it probably Thursday up at CCI. But it basically asks the question, should a property tax limit their growth to the Tabor growth, which is used to be Boulder Index, and now it's Metro Index of some sort, plus 2%. And it'll be on the ballot. So we'll see how it survives the legislative process, and if it makes it with or without amendments, or then happens to die, who knows? But we're going to be focused on that one on Friday. My more concerns was on all the rumors that Senator Hansen has out on his bill. He's got probably 15 bullet items that he is targeting, anywhere from making 12 tax payments a year until 2, which would be real problematic for the treasurer's office and all their procedures and processes. but also a variety of other classifications and restrictions and processes. One of them even includes a smoothing of revenue, which is in logic concept is a sort of a good idea, but the logistics of how you put it into law and how you regulate it will be challenging. But we haven't seen anything from Senator Henson in writing. So we're all waiting with bated breath with only, 14 or 15 days left in the legislature that there should be some major tax implications by a new statute that nobody has time to weather out. Some of these recommendations are coming forth through the tax task force that was brought forward by the special session that they did in December. And they've been meeting weekly and hours long, coming up with some ideas, but in the property tax world, sometimes there's only so many things that just because they make sense, you can't put them into law and try to regulate them in 64 counties that do 64 different things with different sets of revenue, different sets of industries. So those will be the key issues that we're looking on for the next week or so. I'm hopeful that everybody takes this with some common sense approach and just doesn't throw something up because we got to pass something mentality. But assuming it's coming from the task force, the idea that Senator Henson is putting together, it could be, well, they had a task force and they had to report out, so we have to create a law. Doesn't matter if it's good or bad, we just got to pass a law, you know. I'm hoping that common sense prevails and that doesn't happen, but we're gonna keep our eyes focused on that. And unfortunately, maybe a couple more extra trips to Denver to go testify, but that's sort of the cost of what we do and what's in our turf as far as our responsibilities. I think I'll leave it at that. I could talk about 5 or 6 more issues, but I'll leave it at that. Next up on the agenda item is time reserved for elected officials reports. Ms. Brown, anything from the treasurer's
I
office?
have no report today, sir.
All right.
I know.
I was gonna ask Carol, but she seems to have left the room if she had anything from the assessor's office. All righty. We'll move on for administrator reports. Mr. Herzog, Carol's back.
Nothing today, thank you.
Heard me. Thank you, Carol. Mr. Herzog.
Thanks, sir. Try to keep it. Congratulate. Right now, we've got 3 groups. Start address. The worst ones first. Award the county one. Those funds. The point where we can. With regulations with this.
Just to tag on one of your comments, you mentioned 3 operators on graders because we've diverted some of our personnel through the pothole and patching process. We've diverted some to ditching and culverts. And I know we've got people hauling grass. Sometimes graders can't grade anything if it's all mud, so I know we've got more than that operating. It's just on the grader routes themselves, so.
It's a lot. To play together to make it work. They're doing a great job, so.
Yeah, that's man, Mr. Chair, if I could, to pass on compliments to Fred and his team, you know, I've spoken to 2 HOAs in the last week. They're both very complimentary of how hard they worked during the snowstorm and how quickly they to do this. And the roads are looking better. See them out there every day. I don't know if they're working 12-hour shifts or 8-hour shifts, but every time I go anywhere, I see them out there and stop and talk to them. So I really, you can pass on our appreciation.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. 5 agenda item, time reserved for department heads, directors. Taking anything?
Not today.
JT, our OEM manager.
JT, Director, Office of Emergency Management. Just as you gentlemen probably saw last week, the governor's office did put out our fire outlook for 2024. Coming out of a record snowstorm and right into fire season. So that's what we're gearing up and ramping up for. We have gone through that report that was put out by Governor Polis's staff and Mike Morgan's. And just making sure that Teller County staying abreast of everything that we need to be caught up on moving into this fire season. I just conducted a assessment and spoke with Brenda Wazalewski, our state DFPC fire chief for our region, just to make sure that we're aware of what resources are available to us, what contracts that they already have in place for aircrafts and aircraft response if we indeed get a fire here in Teller County. So just want you guys to know that we're ahead of the curve on that. It's getting spooled up for fire season. I also wanted to introduce to the board Shane Pratt. I know a couple of you have met him already, but Shane is leading and directing our FEMA CERT program for Teller County that we have spun back up. He's already conducted a few trainings. I'm going to ask that he just take a couple minutes of your time and just kind of give you a brief of what's going on with the Teller County CERT program. So Shane.
Good morning, sir. Thank you.
Good morning. How are y'all doing? So again, my name is Shane Pratt. I am currently the CERT program manager for Teller County. When we had the 403 fire, if it crossed Highway 24, it would have locked me into my property. And so I said, wait a minute, there's got to be a better way. So I ended up looking around to find out where CERT was. I was trained in CERT 20 years ago when I was a Boise State security. And it was a whole week program where I became a trainer. And so I thought CERT would be great out here. And so I started calling around and I came across JTIG, and it was just like perfect timing because one of his top 10 priorities was to start the CERT program. So I'm just going to go real quickly down some of the things that we do. CERT program was started in the early 80s by our fire battalion chief out of Los Angeles. He went to a tsunami and found out the first people on scene were the bystanders, not the EMS. So then he went down to a tornado or an earthquake down in South America and found the same thing. So he developed the CERT program, and now it's a national program that's ran by FEMA and stuff like that. When we give a class, we do the basic CERT class is approximately 20 hours, and we cover 8 different areas of training. We do disaster preparedness. We do the organization of CERT and how it fits into the ICS command system and FEMA. We talk about medical operations, disaster psychology. We do fire safety and utility control, that's turning off gases and stuff like that. We do light search and rescue, and we also have a program for terrorism, given today's weirdness kind of thing, okay? So far to date, we've had 2 classes. We had one at Fluorescent Fire and the second one was at the Divide Fires, Woodland Park, Northeast Teller. We have a total of 35 students have completed the course. Our 3rd class starts tonight. You're all invited. And we're over at the ambulance service station, the old senior care facilities. Tonight's class, we've got 17 students enrolled. So we're looking forward to that. Out of all the CERT training that we provided so far, 5 people have met the minimum requirements to become a Teller County CERT member. And that includes using the Colorado mobilization to do a background check and everything else. So we've got 5 fully certified people ready to go. And we've got another 17 somewhere in the process of doing all those requirements. One of the things that we're looking into is we do work with the CVM as far as doing our background checks, making sure everybody's vetted and they can do the position, because we're putting them in, checking houses, working with the sheriff's department, working with the fire departments. Some of the things that you've probably seen that we could have done was that last snowfall that we got, we could have helped out and been operating the shelters. You know, where they instead had to have paramedics stay behind to operate the shelters. So doing snow events, wildfire events, resource distribution, additional training. The 20 hours is just the base and it grows from there. Really focused type training, working with our first aid EMS people. We can do call centers and, you know, run the shelters. There's just a lot of things. We're gonna fit the niche that the EMS and the law enforcement guys don't want to do or don't have the personnel to do. So that's basically who we are. If you have any questions, glad to answer them. If not,
Shane, thank you for what you're doing and thanks for your service too. And Jay, your leadership, again, 2 recent POA meetings. Remember what I said, the average person coming first 50, most of these folks that were going to the POA meetings I've seen are in their 60s and they're looking for something to do.
Yeah.
And what happened as a result of that snowstorm, to your point, Shane, is it really focused them on, wow, we were all screwed. We were all, you know, how can we help? And that was their question. So I think the next time we have a quarterly POA, probably get 13 posses very similar on the sheriff's side. There's just a lot of energy, a lot of talented people up there and they're doing their, you know, crime prevention, their neighborhood watches if they wanted to go beyond that. And so I mentioned CERT to them as well. So in case you get some calls, Jay, but so I think this is great. So thanks, hats off to you. Yes, sir.
Thank you so much for being here and thank you for what you're doing. We're looking forward to seeing how this program grows and how the volunteers hit the ground when we need them. And I know it's sometimes just waiting to be called, but sometimes there are other duties that can be done along the preparation routes and things. So thank you so much.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, actually, first off, Shane, thank you so much for stepping up and recognizing first off that we had a need in the county and then, you know, working with Jay to get that going. That's exactly what we needed and I appreciate you so much. And then Jay, just as a FYI, on fire mitigation, I did, and I communicated it with our county administrator, but I got a call from Allison Lurch with CoSwap, and I know that you and Jessica have been talking with her because she told me that you've been talking with you guys, but you know, they're obviously working on trying to give Teller County a $1 million grant for fire mitigation. Just wanted to say that if you need any help, you know, additional assistance with coming up for ideas for the match on that. I had a long conversation with her about what that match can look like. Anyway, just appreciate you guys pursuing that and not letting CoSwap drop. It's going to be a tremendous opportunity to provide hopefully a buffer around the city of Woodland Park if that's what we get.
Yes, sir. And on that, I have had several residents in the county ask why our priorities would be that area around Woodland Park. Obviously, it being the, you know, the epicenter of our population in Teller County is one reason, but I've also been explaining to residents that that's where the bulk of our infrastructure is. You know, if we lose grocery stores, if we lose mechanic shops, if we lose community centers, a lot of those things, because Woodland Park is kind of the center of services for all Teller County as well as Eastern Park County, Northern Fremont County, Southern Douglas County. And so it's not just affecting Teller County specifically. And so as we look to justify those projects that we want to mitigate around that western and southwestern side of Woodland Park, I've been explaining to residents that it's not just because Woodland Park is the biggest population center, it's because it's also the infrastructure and services center for our county as well as the sister counties that border us. And so as we move forward, if you guys want to go ahead and proceed with the projects that have already been outlined from the previous CoSwap application, I just need the authorization from the board that we can supply the match and that Jessica and I can move forward with the application and try to get that $1 million grant provided for the county.
Right, and with the match with that, we could even, for example, all the work that Core has been doing for mitigation along power lines,
Yep.
all of that as an
Counts.
in-kind counts. So
Yep.
whether it's Black Hills Energy, Core, you know, other mitigation efforts throughout the county, all of that we can include that as part of our application. So,
Yes, sir.
and I agree 100%. When we previously, actually prior to you being hired, was when we initially applied for that grant, and we didn't have an OEM director, and I think it was Ross and I that were trying to pull that off at the time. And
Yes, sir.
but we did identify, yeah, that the major infrastructure is in there, and people need to realize is that when you look at Teller County, the next Paradise, California is Woodland Park if we don't do something.
Right.
Which is, a population center with significant infrastructure when you consider the water and wastewater, in addition to the transportation and communications hubs that are located there. It is absolutely critical that we protect all of that because obviously, even for transportation, just going through Woodland Park, it's a bottleneck right there just for moving vehicles. So anyway, appreciate the work on that and I'm happy to help in any way I can.
Yes, sir. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Some of the stuff that we do, you can kind of browse through over the next thing.
Thank you, Shane.
All right. Now we have some time reserved for public without an appointment. Members from the public that don't have an agenda item. Anything been flagged online, John? Okay, thanks. All right. Now we get a fun time. We get to recognize one of our longtime employees for public service. One of the fun things we get to do, we get to honor some of our longtime employees and meet some thresholds. Today, we get to welcome and recognize Mary Doolittle. We have an achievement certificate here for 20 years, and I just want to bring up that Mary, like you just mentioned, has been here 20 years. She started in 2004 as a finance assistant in the Department of Social Services. Later that year, she became a finance assistant up here in our own finance department. In 2015, she became one of our staff accountants. And in 2023, she became the staff accountant #2 and is current our payroll manager. Mary's been here a long time. I happen to remember when she joined us. And I've teased her over the years how we have to keep changing her email because her last name has changed a few times. It's just the email concept. Yeah, that's fine.
Wow. Not necessarily little.
Mary's always been one of those ladies that's been willing to step up and do anything that's asked. She's very talented. I don't think there's anything in her in her finance and accounting department that she isn't capable of doing. She's also one that's always stepped up in an amazing different roles when we have incidents in the community. That's wildfire, that's snow events, that's flood. She attempts to leave her regular duties, but she doesn't get not do. She just has to do them at a later time and shows up on site to take care of tracking of accounting and finance and payroll hours, etc. She just is always willing to do each and every item that's ever requested of her. And she's always the fun lady. She always likes to do things for fun, and she can break the silence and the stress of anything that's going on because just of her personality. I really like Mary and what she provides to this county, and she's given 20 long years of service to the taxpayers of Teller County. And it's just a wonderful accomplishment. And I want to say thank you so much.
Sir, I'm not gonna mention last names or.
Just an email.
So I got here 10 years ago when I was a county employee in 2014, which is hard to believe, and Mary's one of the first people that I met. And, we talk about transparency in government, we talk about taxes, the fact that the money that we get to husband resources and ours, and she's the pointy end of the spear. And I used to talk to her a lot when I try to figure out all the payroll stuff, right? How many times I call Mary and go, I can't figure out this pay thing. Even though it's exempt, and she would always go, Dan, you forgot to do this, quit crying. And I love you too, But anyway, Mary, you got a great friend here. That's here as well. And I think Bob's right. Whenever we've had an emergency, you volunteered, you've come out, we've smelled like smoke coming out of the fires, and there you are trying to make sure everything's transparent, that we're capturing costs, because again, that's huge. We talked about some of the fires, that first fire that Eric and I got to participate in with Ross. I think you were here one week. with Bob was a $6 million fire. We got just about all of it back, and we got that back because she was able to keep costs. And you're right, you're always smiling. I've never seen you not smile, you know, and if you have, you've hidden it from us. So I just want to thank you for the bottom of my heart. 20 years is a long time. And you kind of emulate what we exactly work 20 more. But you emulate what we hope to do across the board with pay raises, with benefits increases. Is come to Teller County, thanks to Ivy. Really appreciate helping us make that a reality. Come here and make it your home. We are a family, and as Dee knows, that we all stick together. Yeah. So a lot of you, I'm glad you're here and.
Yeah.
All right. All right.
Appreciate it.
And yeah, I really can't add a whole lot more to what these gentlemen said. And, you know, they always say that you can judge a person by their friends, and, you know, your friends are here, including those. But I just think it's amazing that, you know, that you came to work for the county when you were 12. I mean,
Oh, I didn't believe that.
For the child labor law.
yeah. But anyway, you know, what they said though about, you know, being a bright face, you know, around the office and for your department. You know, having somebody that likes to have fun in the finance department. Like a room full of people who are very, very serious about what they do, and then you have very, very serious but enjoying it. So thank you, congratulations. We love having you, and you're the type of person that anybody would want on their team. And we appreciate you.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Paul Rouse, our immediate supervisor, as the finance director.
I don't know how the county would function without Mary, because everybody here depends on her for their paychecks. So, woo-hoo. And she has always been so conscientious about wanting to make sure everybody's checks are correct, that nobody misses anything. She'll stay late if she has to, if somebody finds an error, and even if it's their fault, they did their timesheet wrong and it's like, hey, I'm not gonna get paid, blah, blah, blah. She will try and fix it for them, because that's the kind of person she is. And I, on a personal level, just want to say, Mary was one of the first people that I met when I moved to Colorado, and she's been my friend for 25 years now. So even before we both worked here, and she's the reason I work here now, because she told me about the job and said, Vicki, you need to apply. So otherwise I wouldn't be here either, but thank you so much for being my friend. And she does bring so much joy to me.
Our achievement certificate says the certificate is presented to Mary Doolittle in appreciation for 20 years of dedicated service with Teller County. And there's a certificate in here also for some merchandise that HR has put together. An item of your choice. The floor is yours.
I just want to say, I can't believe it's been 20 years. I can still remember the first day I walked in the door here thinking, what did I do? I was 15 years at one of the casinos and knew my job frontwards and back, and to come here and go, what the heck am I doing? It's crazy, but, you know, it's the leadership, the friends that I've made that have made me want to do my very best and to stay here and hopefully stay here for a lot longer. So, yeah, I mean, you guys just all do a great job. You make it easy to want to be here. So, best friends ever. Yeah. On that note, I'm gonna be on vacation. You guys make it easy. I mean, you guys really care about the county. You need it easy. Yeah. Yay. Yay, Mary.
Oh, that's really Meryl said.
I just said.
I used to call all the time. I just can't fix this. Yeah. Ross, you counsel us later.
I was just gonna
Just an email. All right. We'll move on to our 9:55 item, consider a resolution to amend various 2024 department fund budgets.
Madam Clerk, just to confirm, it's 13. For you is a resolution to amend the 2024 General Road and Bridge Jail Enterprise Fleet Management and VSS Fund Budgets. It's resolution number 04-23-2024-13. Whereas in the past, the county has recognized significant savings from employment turnover that the Board of County Commissioners could consider for use in other areas. And whereas the Board of County Commissioners has directed staff to make monthly budget adjustment by transferring personnel-related funds from individual departments to holding departments within each fund as personnel budget needs are reduced, and from holding departments to individual departments as personnel budget needs increase within county policy. And whereas the funds budgeted in the above referenced holding departments, which have been added to each fund as personnel contingency departments, ending in the numbers 2190, are not appropriated nor available for expenditure and are only accessible by resolution of the Board of County Commissioners, transferring them to other departmental budget accounts. And whereas the Board of County Commissioners hereby finds, determines, and declares that adoption of this resolution is necessary for the preservation and protection of the public health, safety, and welfare of the inhabitants of Teller County, Colorado. Now therefore be it hereby resolved by the Board of County Commissioners of Teller County, Colorado, that the departmental budgets and personnel contingency department accounts be decreased as follows, and I will summarize by fund. General fund, $722,698. Road and Bridge Fund, $37,457. Jail Enterprise Fund, $93,554. Fleet Management, $61,836. Social Services Fund, $170,018. And that the departmental budgets and personnel contingency department accounts be increased as follows. And again, they'll summarize by fund. General Fund, $722,698. Road and Bridge Fund, $37,457. Jail Enterprise, $93,554. Fleet Management, $61,836. Social Services Fund, $170,018. And that the amounts appropriated for expenditure be reduced and increased accordingly, adopted at the regular meeting of the Board of County Commissioners of Teller County, Colorado, this 23rd day of April 2024.
Thank you, Mr. Herzog. Any questions from the commissioner? I don't have any questions. All right, I'll open this item up for public comment. Any public comment on this resolution? Seeing, hearing none. What's your preference on this resolution, gentlemen?
Chair, make a motion that we approve resolution number 04-25-2023-13. A resolution to amend the 2024 General Road and Bridge, Jail Enterprise, Fleet Management, and DSS funds as presented and as briefed.
And Mr. Chair, I would second with one correction at 04-24. It's
24,
it's got a typo on our list. It was corrected to the wrong date after publishing it.
No, the date is 23rd, the year is 2024. And attached.
Oh, I'm sorry, I was
To the
going to do it
minutes.
wrong then.
Yeah, attached to the minutes.
23rd. You're right.
All right, assuming no other discussion, roll call, please.
Mr. Stoll? Mr. Williams?
Yes.
Mr. Campbell?
Yes. Thank you so much. Appreciate it, Mr. Herzog. Our next item is administration BoCC. We are here to set the date for a public hearing on the amended and restated service plan for the Southern Teller County Health Services District. And do we need to read that out loud or?
No.
Okay, notice has been given to the Teller County Board of County Commissioners on April 1st, that there was a filed Teller County Board of County Commissioner and amended restated service plan for the Southern Teller County Health District, known as the Health District. And pursuant to statutes, we are here today to make notice and create a public agenda item. The Health District was originally organized in 1975, providing pre-hospital ground ambulance support services within its jurisdiction and other health services districts, or other health services. And their mission has adjusted a little bit, so they are submitting a new service plan that special districts are required to do. And that notice is further given that the Teller County Board of County Commissioners will conduct a public hearing on whether to approve the health district's amended and restated service plan on May 23rd, 2024. And it's currently listed at 9:15 a.m. here at our Board of County Commissioners meeting in Cripple Creek. And the time and place of interested persons may appear to discuss that and give us their feedback. So notice is given. I don't know if there's anything else to be said.
Yeah, I think I have a motion.
Great.
Mr. Chairman, I would move that we set a public hearing to answer the question about whether to approve or to open up comment on whether to approve the health district's amended and restated service plan on May 23rd, 2024 at 9:15 a.m. here at the Teller County Centennial Building.
Second motion, Mr. Chair.
All right.
Mr. Stone?
Yes.
Mr. Lee?
Yes.
Mr. Campbell?
Yes, thank you.
Oh, you had a question?
What?
Mr. Stone?
I just wanted to point out Ashley Hendrick is sitting in for our previous clerk employees as they're unavailable today. So thank you for being here, Ashley. Thank you. Appreciate your service to this board. Thank you so much. Our 10:10 item, I think we're still on schedule, is to consider appointment of Mr. Lee Chapin as an alternate to the Teller County Board of Review.
Sir, I'm happy to read the
Sure.
letter that came in. So years of designing
Well, I'd just like to say thank you so much. The Board of Review is one of our citizen panels that help us advise us on lots of issues relating to contractors and licensing and Board of Review consultations. So I'm sorry, the building department's consultations. So I thank you very much for stepping forward, Mr. Lee Chapin. Any comments or discussion?
Yeah, I would just say for transparency, I know Lee pretty well. When I was in the planning department, I ran into him a couple of times officially. I found him to be very logical, he's very forthright. He's neither pro-growth or anti-growth, which is always something we have to look at for our philosophy, or, cumbersome regulations. He's a pretty common sense guy. I agree with Paul, having an architect, and he went through our cumbersome planning processes a couple of times without complaining. And so he understands the role of government. So he has my full support as well, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, sir. What would be your consideration on this appointment, gentlemen?
Mr. Chair, I move that we appoint Mr. Lee Chapin as an alternate on the Teller County Board of Review, and welcome him aboard.
Second.
Thank you. Assuming no other discussion, roll call please.
Mr. Thomas?
Yes.
Mr. Lance?
Yes.
Mr. Campbell?
And so all sort.
Thank you, sir. Next up, we have the consideration for approval of the 2024 revised capital improvement policy. Are you gonna handle this one, Mr. Rizzo?
Yes, sir. So improvements policy. This is that allow staff to put together, it's been updated. Works from CD. What? Sector for commissioners. Their perspectives for allows to rank them and
First off, I'd just like to say thank you, and this one isn't the same as the last one, which was the general public, but this is our employees that get together and review capital requests and submit them to the Board of Commissioners, so I want to say thank you to those employees that are involved, that spend their hours away from their normal duties in their departments, helping us in some budget responsibilities and give us their consideration from the staff level and from departments throughout the county. We have one other change I think mentioned is that the amount that will be in the CIP process is for items over 10,000, and I think it was previously 5,000. That had been there for probably 20 years, so based on cost of goods and improvements, it doesn't take too much to get over. But 10 grand does create a decent level to consider. Any discussion or questions from the commissioners?
Yeah, I'll just say, Mr. Chair, that it really, for our public, when they see our strategic plan that's published, this is really the metrics that we use. And so on page 6, you'll clearly see halfway down, has the project been specified in the approved Teller County strategic plan. So members of the public can grade our paper that way. They're hearing about things that were rumors or what we want to spend money on. All you have to do is go to the strategic plan and look at some of the goals that we have as Teller County commissioners or below that. And then this isn't in any particular order, but at the top of that same page, it talks about addressing deficiencies, et cetera, and impact of public health, welfare, and safety. And just as a reminder, that's our #1 goal, is to maintain a very high level of public health, welfare, and safety. And in some cases, it doesn't have to go through a more deliberate process. If Ross comes and says this is a matter of life and death, and then those things that we can defer until a later time. So a great document, but its companion document is a strategic plan. So thanks, Mr. Chair.
No problem.
Yeah, and I'd just like to comment, Mr. Chairman,
Sure.
the revision that we're making is in lifting not the limit, but the starting range CIP projects. Not only I think is necessary due to just inflation and the cost of goods, cost of labor, et cetera, but also as it makes us more streamlined and more efficient as an organization to do so. And the thing I think that kind of precipitated this was our public health department wanted to have the walls painted and paint them a nice color for the folks coming in, because they were kind of worn out, and it would have taken like 1.5 years for them to do that, to go through the capital improvement project process and go through that budgeting process rather than just using available funds. And so anyway, again, it's going to make us more efficient to do that.
All right, then we need a motion on this item.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, I would move to approve the capital improvements policy as presented for 2024.
Yeah, and I just one question, and I would second that motion. On the cover letter. It says as last revised on April 25th, 2024. So that's obviously not today.
23rd.
It says 25th.
This is the revision as of the 23rd.
Yeah, this would,
We just make that correction on the cover sheet. So
yeah,
I second that motion as last revised on April 23rd, 2024. So that'd be one correction. We actually did this today.
Yeah. So it's meant to come up.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, any other discussion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Stone?
Yes.
Mr. Williams?
Yes.
Mr. King?
Yes. Thank you so much. Well, that's our normal hearing items, and now we move on to some business items. Contracts, et cetera.
Thank you, sir. Before. Third. To the Colorado. And it's just dollar amounts. Additional on this.
Allocating. Five, the total. Yeah, if I'm reading this right, last year we got 268,000 and change. This year,
It's much more.
beginning in June or July 1 as the state fiscal year, goes to 418,000. For those behavioral based services, which I think most of we do subcontract out at one point. But this is the contract from Department of Human Services, Behavioral Health Administration. Can't talk today.
Yeah, and it provides for technicians. Increase all around, it's not just us.
Questions?
No, sir.
All right, what would be choice on this contract amendment?
Sure, I move that we approve contract amendment number 4 to the Colorado Department of Human Services contract number 23 IBEH 1744479 for jail-based service behavioral services as presented.
Second.
All right, assuming no other discussion, roll call please.
Mr. Stone?
Yes.
Mr. Williams?
Yes.
Mr. King?
Yes.
Consideration approval of professional. With KM. Then last. Nation. John Evans, to be able to, yep. For County Board of Equalization for the upcoming year.
And this being an off-year assessment year, it won't be quite the flood of evaluation protests because it's only new and changed properties or properties that have had some amendments and construction, so a smaller number than the big years, which is every other year. Any questions, gentlemen?
No, sir.
All right. What would be your choice on this PSA?
Yeah, Mr. Chair, I would move to approve the professional services agreement with KM Appraisal Services along with any changes or modifications requested by the contractor and approved by the county attorney.
So you got a motion, Mr. Chair?
All right, thank you, gentlemen. Roll call, please.
Mr. Stone?
Yes.
Mr. Williams?
Yes.
Mr. King?
Yes. And the list, no additional items?
Do you have two quick? LFRF. Full fiscal recovery. It does a
This period was zero, but.
zero, but
Okay.
yeah.
All right, thank you, Mr. Herzog. That concludes our business items. If there's nothing else to be brought in front of this board, I have the time 10:26. We shall adjourn. Thank you.
Well done.